Hello there, and welcome to another Cyberpunk 2077 lore video. The basic premise of sci-fi punk is a focus on technology, usually one specific kind of technology. There's an element of rebellion, and the main characters are marginalized members of society, hinting at the meaning of the word punk. With over a dozen derivatives, cyberpunk holds a specific trait of society, the absence or near collapse of the middle class. In nearly all forms of its produced content, there's an abundance of the poor. They're either littered on the streets or restricted to superstructures where they share limited living space with their neighbors. The polluted earth offers tainted water, food is barely nutritious, and their only escape comes from either drugs or technological addictions. As lovers of science fiction, we often dream of existing in a more advanced civilization with access to marvels such as augmentation without considering how we might be in the world of tomorrow. We're often visitors from the eyes of the protagonist, the hero, the main character, the savior, unaware of the likelihood that we would spend our lifetime in the struggling middle tier, the down and out, accurate representations of our parallel lives, not the rich, the powerful, the CEO, the V's or the Davids, just what remains in the rest of the world. And what remains in the former United States of America, social stratification is at its peak. Prior to the collapse, the extremely wealthy held 90% of the country's overall wealth, a situation that is similar in Asia, Europe, and South America. The accumulation of wealth has given birth to the megacorporations that now rule the world. While they are not unions of states, they are quasi-governmental and they seek to control their homelands. They bribe political servants, arrange assassinations, overthrow leadership, wage wars, and even lead colonization efforts on Mars. Their leaders are above the law in nations all around the globe. Some, the like of Militech, have successfully merged with the sovereignty, while others, the likes of Arasaka, have failed, but in their failure have risen to become even more powerful than previously. It is the megacorporation that leads the world into an uncertain future, and they have rewritten what it means to be in societal class. Where in our own world, we reference the upper, middle, and lower class. In Cyberpunk 2077, one could argue there is only the upper class and lower class, each consisting of three subgroups: dominating, intermediate, and the dominated. Those who are of the upper class are either head of government or high-ranked corporate agents, while the lower class consists of their employees, freelancers, business owners, and those nomad or displaced people. For those that employ themselves with the megacorporation, they are forever living under the constant threat of being displaced themselves. Their corporate employer sees them as the expendable flock and the unemployed as their reserve army. This creates a competitive and hostile environment where fellow employees rival one another for seemingly insignificant advancement. They see any minor progression of the steep slope of the corporate hierarchy to be of utmost importance, since a step down may be as well as life living on the streets. Stepping on a friend or neighbor may be no different than saving yourself and letting them perish in a life-threatening situation. And why would you do otherwise? You're dependent on the company for nearly everything. They own your home, provide your food, ensure your security, and offer a modest income for your minor role, while easily dismissible, is a necessary one. The megacorporation is your lifeboat from the flood and the river that may drown you depending on your quarterly review. It becomes so integrated into your lifestyle that it has its own culture, laws, and social system. In some districts in Night City, it is your ruling government, the only entity to answer call for domestic disputes and medical emergencies. Working for the megacorporation is one of the most stressful jobs in the world. It is almost the best way to advance in an ever-changing society. The bottom of the corporate chain are the dominated. They are the cleaners, drivers, security guards, desk workers, assistants, and all other basic performing jobs. For their service, they receive the most basic benefits, such as standard medical care, staff housing in one of the mega buildings. They earn just enough to survive. Many of these workers have no interest in the brutal nature of the corporate lifestyle. They're the ordinary citizens that seek to just do enough, then retire. Of them, there will be those that wish to do more. They are the grinders of society, the next generation of corporate agents that seek the luxurious life of the upper class. They are considered the intermediate. The intermediates are the middle class of corporate workers. They eagerly work 16-hour days, surviving off of stems to keep themselves awake and focused. The only moments of peace come with the relaxation drug and sleeping pills. Their life is the day in, day out limbo of waking up, start the cycle over and over for one opportunity, the chance to prove themselves a capable employee, someone that the corporation can utilize to advance in its agendas. Those successful enough to move up this level in the hierarchy may find themselves with a nicer living space, such as a corporate condo and a corporate funded vehicle. An added bonus is additional income where you may be able to afford fast food. But this is where the added benefits end. From here, corporate culture becomes nothing more than a competitive and brutal environment. The goal of every mid-level corporate agent is to undermine the others and ascend to their position. Intermediates are the frontline employees. They buy information from fixers, employ mercenaries and net runners, rob the local underpaid authorities, and even utilize journalists to damage the influence of the competitors. The goal of every mid-level corporate agent is to undermine the others and ascend to their position. Intermediates are the frontline employees. They buy information from fixers, employ mercenaries and net runners, rob the local underpaid authorities, and even utilize journalists to damage the influence of the competitors. The lifestyle is high risk and high reward. The corporate agents at this level are so unforgiving, so brutal, that the dominated class purposely avoids progression up the corporate hierarchy to avoid it. Management positions are occupied by the most cunning and ruthless individuals, ready to sacrifice everyone and everything to stay on top, all in the hopes that the day will come when their chance to ascend to the upper class. The intermediates are often those that find themselves in the crosshairs of their corporate rivals, fellow workers, and corporations they serve. If ever for a reason the corporate supervisor sees them as unloyal, a threat, or unreliable, the odds of execution is far more likely than simply being fired. At the top of the corporate pyramid resides the dominating group. They are the board members, CEOs, corporate owners, and their relatives. They are nothing less than the ruling families of the modern world. Like royalty, their descendants inherit the corporation and all their accumulated wealth. Unlike the corporate middle class, these positions are much more secure. The internal coup attempt of Arasaka during the heist is a rare occurrence due to the potential instability it may cause, an instability that can lead to the collapse of a corporation. It is feared so much that individuals holding these powerful positions prefer to remain fixated, especially since the biggest threat of a megacorporation is another. We never see this ever more present than during the time of the Ocean War and the Fourth Corporate War between Militech and Arasaka, a period where both corporations engaged each other in a global conflict, exhausting their resources to the point government nearly brought them to the brink of existence. Aside from megacorporations, the only other positions of wealth and power exist with the heads of state and celebrities. In many cases, megacorporations exert their influence so heavily on governments that the state is no more than a corporate puppet. In the case of Militech and Arasaka, both sought to take control of the government. While Arasaka failed due to being weakened by its war with Militech, Militech itself achieved this by getting its former CEO, Elizabeth Kress, elected to the weakened United States of America. President Kress immediately nationalized Militech and assigned its board members to positions of power within the federal government. Now, the corporation and the new United States are one and the same, creating a rising power in the West. The dominating lower class consists of those who either couldn't find their place in megacorporations or were fired from them. They are the small businesses littered around the city in the shadow of the megastructure. These businesses consist of restaurants, clubs, garages, coffee bars, workshops, pawn shops, braindance studios, and cyber clinics. These businesses successfully operate thanks to society's weariness due to the corporate wars of the megacorporation. However, these independent operations are easily extorted by local gangs that force them to pay protection fees. With the privatization of the NCPD and their limited capabilities, those outside the influence of corporations have no choice but to pay. It's preferred since nomadic groups take advantage of this vulnerability in security. Even without these dangers, the social situation for small business owners is challenging. They are forced to rent homes in poorer districts. For their employees, they have to cover the costs for quality of life that are often covered at the basic entry level for corporate employees. Nevertheless, they continue to thrive, if only just for a while. The true middle class are on the verge of poverty. They are the poorly educated, and most of them are unemployed. Many turn to illegal activities to generate revenue that allow them to survive in a futuristic form of paycheck to paycheck. According to the world of Cyberpunk 2077 lorebook, those that have a job are the luckiest people of all. Brutal changes in the structure of society in the last half century increased the proportions of the poorest part of the human populace. Economic downturn, global financial crashes, a growing poverty rate, and addiction to drugs and brain dance have created an army of social outcasts in the cities. Those unemployed for a lengthy period are the homeless of the metropolises. Major urban areas consist of entire districts that are inhabited by shanty towns, tent cities, and favelas, where tens of thousands of people live in outrageous conditions, surviving day by day. Despite these conditions, causing many to die by the thousands, the population of the homeless grow every day. While in the real world, we envision dark alleyways filled with addicts and dealers, and Cyberpunk 2077 they're filled with braindance victims covered in their own urine, watching low-quality records of a celebrity's life over and over. The addiction to braindance can be so strong that users often murder one another just to acquire a new recording. Thus far, there is no resolution to the problem of homelessness. City officials and corporations often resort to the extremes, such as purging the population when relocation efforts fail. Such attempts are very costly, since they often spark mass riots. All are in agreement that it's better to simply ignore the problem than to solve it. The further you move away from the corporate district, the worse the situation becomes. Some areas, such as the stadium in the Pacifica district, are in a state of complete anarchy. Pacifica itself sees very little law enforcement and almost no corporate activity whatsoever. The entire area is ruled by the local gangs that sell drugs to the homeless in exchange for labor and loyalty. Some gangs, the likes of the Voodoo Boys, are even considered the ruling government that provides services the Night City Council has since removed. All in all, the world of Cyberpunk 2077 is a dark and grim reality where the wealthy and powerful accumulated by the elite members of corporations have all but exhausted the average man. The next time you dream of the technological future, you can imagine a life where trees, colorless tap water, and vehicles are reserved for the upper class. And you'll be thankful just to have a braindance helmet in an alleyway on your way to work the next day. Thank you for watching. If you watched this far, please consider subscribing to the channel or leaving a comment, and I'll see you next time.